Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs. From the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
So you've been hunting?
A little bit. Not a whole lot. I've only been getting out maybe once a week just to exercise them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so dang hot.
Oh, I know.
And dusty and dry. And, like we can hunt coyote and possums and skunks and all that. But like our fox season's closed right now. It won't open till fall.
Oh, you guys have like a training season?
Nope. No, I mean, technically we can have dogs in the woods chasing coyotes and, specific game. But for the fox and bobcats, it's all like September through February, March.
Gotcha. I didn't realize. I mean, I know every state's different. I guess I'm lucky here in the fact that for coon, fox, anything like the bobcat, squirrels, anything you're legally allowed to pursue with dogs, there is the closed hunting season where you were allowed to take those animals, but then otherwise there's no closed pursuit season.
Oh, so you can run all year.
Yep. And that'd
be nice.
Like I said, coyotes, foxes, coon, bobcat, squirrels. That's all you're legally allowed to pursue here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could just go to a year-round pursuit. But, there for a while in Oregon, there was the bird nesting laws. So from, I think it was April 1st or April 15th. I can't remember. It was when I first really started. But you couldn't even have a dog off a leash because of the bird nesting season.
Oh, wow.
Or they'd write you a ticket, and that got lifted. It's been a long time, man. Time just kind of flies by. But I remember when I first got into it, that was like a big deal and a huge win for houndsmen.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, other than that, it's just trying to keep some weight off of them and not get fat in the summer and keep feet kind of tough.
Well, I got my problem right now is I have both females in heat. So there's no going anywhere with them. And then there's nowhere to road a dog around here. There's no gravel roads. I live in a very urban area. Well, like not urban, but developed rural area. Suburbia has like spread out to us. And so it's all blacktop roads, ton of traffic. So there's nowhere you can take a dog and just road a dog. And even most of the places I hunt aren't that big. So this time of year, it's hard unless you want to be in the woods to keep a dog in shape.
Oh, I'd imagine. Yeah. I mean, for us, until fire season really kicks in, I mean, it's getting a little wild now. We're in a real big heat streak right now. And the fires are starting to kick off. I mean, they've got reports of arson on these last two that just kicked off.
Jeez.
So, I mean, it's kind of sketchy down here. Southern Oregon is just kind of known for wildfires.
Well, the whole
all my buddies that I thought are nuts for living in Tornado Alley, we fight wildfires every year. We lose our hunting ground. Can't breathe. I mean, it's horrible. And we've been super lucky this year with the weather. It's been pretty moist. It's been cool. And then we got this just snap of heat. And it's a little scary, man.
I was thinking about that.
Way too dry.
While I was out feeding my dogs, and we had just gotten a little bit of rain, and then it cut off, and so I went out to feed earlier, and it was humid. And I mean, it's hot here. It's not as hot as it is there. It was probably 90. But just with 85, 90% humidity,
It's horrible.
And I'm like, while I hate the humidity and I would love to have dry heat, it's really nice having rain and not worrying about wildfires like you do.
Yeah.
So it's like you have dry
heat, man.
Dry heat and no rain, or you have humidity and rain.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like this year, everything kind of took off because we got more than normal precipitation, and then it all dried out. So I don't know. As long as the winds don't kick up too bad, it seems like they've got on these last couple pretty quick. So, but there's some big ones. I know that one down in California, that's a little scary. I got a lot of buddies and customers and friends down there, and that fire it's gaining ground.
Jeez. You said that a couple of them were started by arson. Like, who in their right mind I just don't. That makes no sense.
That's exactly what I said to my wife. I'm like, I don't understand.
Who wants to burn the woods down? Like, that just makes no sense.
Crazy people, man. I don't get it. Because we're not talking. I mean, it's hard because, like, I love talking about the geography on the podcast and people explaining where they're from, because it's really hard. If you haven't seen certain areas in the States, you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there are places that I'm dying to go see because you hear these stories, but until you see it, it's different.
Oh, yeah.
And in these areas, when you can look out from one mountaintop and just see countless drainages, I mean, it's such a vast country out there. One fire gets in there, and I mean, just getting the work crews in there, and the logistics.
Oh, yeah.
Those wildland firefighters are freaking bad dudes and some bad ladies out there. And it's funny because in the hound community, there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of wildland firefighters that are houndsmen or dozer operators or whatever. And it's just a group of people that they're salt of the earth. Yep. I mean, they're risking it all. And it's good to have them around. You just hate to see them have to be out there like that.
Yep. And I mean, obviously, I realize that fires get started naturally as well. But when you do hear about the arson, it just like boggles me. Because I'm like, who? Like, it makes no sense.
Right. They've never spent a minute in that location in their life prior to lighting that fire. I'd almost guarantee it. Because anybody that enjoys it, why would you destroy your resource? You know, that to us, that's our sanity, is getting out away from everything. And really, like, from here where I'm at, you're an hour and a half from the coast. You're an hour and a half from the high desert, you know, or at least the start of it. You can go 4 or 5 hours and be hunting big high desert country. There's so many cool, like, subclimates around here.
I know the Pacific Northwest is crazy.
It's beautiful, man. It really is.
You keep telling me that.
But I love it back. I mean, I have a special spot for the Midwest because that's where I always went as a kid with my dad. We'd always road trip to Michigan.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just kind of, I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm being honest, why I am drawn back there, but I do like it. Maybe it's the fishing. Because every time I go back, I love to go bass fishing.
Okay.
Maybe find a muskie or something. That was always the best childhood memories, was going back there and just fishing and checking out hunting spots, watching dad and my uncle get ready for season.
When did you stop coming back?
Man, I haven't been back in probably, I couldn't even tell you. It was my grandma's 93rd birthday, I think. So I'm going to say probably between 6 and 8 years ago.
Okay.
But I am horrible with time. it flies around here.
Yep.
Well, but yeah, it's been a minute.
Why don't we actually introduce you? I mean, everybody that listens to this should probably know the voice by now.
It's a voice for radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, we've got Jason Duby, W Hound Supply Extraordinaire Customer Service Representative. Is that What is your actual title there?
The technical one, I think it was Director of Customer Relations.
Okay.
/ field rep / whatever they need at the moment.
Yep. When it's a small business, that kind of seems like you do whatever.
Oh, yeah. The crew is, I mean, really, we're bouncing around. It's so crazy because everybody has to wear 100 hats. To keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Like, we joke around, it's just like this big ball of organized, like, energy that you just got to keep going the right direction. You know, it's because it's everybody's having to jump around and do different things. And it's pretty amazing, actually.
Like, I work for a company that's significantly larger, and it's still like that. So
yeah, it's a fairly small crew, really. I mean, so it's nice that everybody kind of works together and they learn a little bit of everything. You know, obviously there's people that are better in one category or another, or they like, you know, answering phones better than packaging an order, which is great, you know, to have just kind of a little bit of a diversity there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can just jump over and go to work, which is really nice.
Definitely.
Especially for me, because I don't have to do like 90% of it. I get to talk to people
Yep.
and I get to just answer phones. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but
yeah,
everybody that's in the shop, it's crazy what they do on a day to day to just make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos, guys. If anybody's listening to this, they probably get sick of hearing my podcast enough.
I understand. But we're going to talk about your dogs because, like I said, you never talk about your dogs or your stories, or you're always talking to everybody else.
So they're more interesting.
Let's dive into your pack and your hunting, and so
where you want to start?
I don't know. Let's start at the beginning when you were bear hunting, like when you first got involved in hounds, and you first got your first dogs.
So I got into dogs just by going to bear camp with a buddy of mine. Mm-hmm. I didn't even have dogs. He just talked me into coming down, and I went, one time, and then it was another and another and another. And next thing you know, you're just down there every weekend you can get away. I mean, and it was such a cool experience for me. I just instantly was drawn to it because it was a family thing. Mm-hmm. There were 3 generations there, or maybe more in that camp by the end of it, and a group of just guys that get together, and it was like a band of brothers kind of. Mm-hmm. When it all went away, everybody kind of dispersed, and we all live in the same town, and I might see the guy that really mentored me a lot twice a year. Okay. Unfortunately, just that's where we all met. It was like the common ground. But yeah, I didn't even have dogs that first year. I had an 88 Toyota 4Runner, and we would throw the mattress in the back, and my buddy Jesse's kids would they just bounce around the back of my 4Runner all weekend. Or we'd be running around and trying to catch dogs and relay them, and I had to be in it.
Yeah.
There was something about it.
Definitely.
One of the big ones was, I'll never forget, we were hunting down there, and I was with my buddy Jesse and Sean didn't have dogs either, but he had a bear tag, and we're hunting late. It would have been late November, maybe early December. I mean, it was definitely snow season, mm-hmm. and we were thinking about getting trailers out, but all of a sudden Sean just stops his truck, and we're kind of, I wouldn't say in deep snow, but enough. It's like, wouldn't stop if you didn't have to.
Yeah.
And I realized why he stopped, and it's because there's like a 400-pound bear coming down the hill. And he comes out in the road, and we're just sitting there staring at it. And I'll never forget, Jesse just looks over. He's like, "Did you forget what we're looking for?" And then the gas gets smashed, and all 4 wheels are spinning, and you're doing like the cartoon slow motion, 100 miles an hour up there to get dogs loose on it. And it was like that actual hunt, I would say, is probably one of the most memorable ones from like that first couple years of hunting. Like that one just really stuck with me because it was a great race.
Yeah.
It was monster cinnamon bear. If I remember right, it might have been just a lighter brown, but I'm pretty sure it was more of a cinnamon, but it was massive. And it was just like the camaraderie there was so much fun. I had to get a dog and try it,
Of course.
And then it was 2, and then it was 3, and then it was 5, and then it was all the way up to 13 or 14 at one point. Dog food was cheaper back then, but
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and then it was just, I got hooked, so I had to get a dog. And I was lucky enough. I had a friend at the time that knew where there was a finished dog, and it was out of some local stuff, semi-local here to Southern Oregon. Mm-hmm. And I picked that dog up.
Now, was that a blue tick?
He was actually a blue tick Walker cross.
Okay.
So the blue tick side was related to the blue tick stuff that I ended up with later on down the line.
Okay.
So same lineage on the blue tick side. Mm-hmm. And then the Walker side, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I knew his mom's name was Bonnie, if I remember right. But she came from a guy that actually used to hunt a little bit with my great uncle down here too.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was all stuff I figured out afterwards. Like I didn't even know this going to camp. And then I found out that they knew each other. And since my uncle's passed on, is the guy that was at camp with us, he's still around here and kicking. I don't think you could ever get him down. But yeah, it was just a grade Walker blue tick dog.
Okay.
And I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, it took a long time to make things work because I still believe this to this day. New owners, dogs got to relearn.
Yeah.
The day of the dog you just pick up and go hunt. I don't feel like that happens very often.
I've had this
anymore.
A similar experience.
Right? I don't know what it is, but it's like I just felt like it took a while. I'd say 4 months or so to get the dog in me to just click. Like he'd always go and do his job, but after that he liked me.
Okay.
And we started really enjoying it. And I had a couple of pups to hunt behind him. I ended up with a purebred blue tick, Haley, and she was kind of the first one that started the blue dogs for us. And I had a Walker blue tick male that I got from my buddy Jesse that went back to some Findlay River bred stuff on the Walker side and the same blue tick stuff as my purebred female and Thumper, the first dog I ended up with.
Okay.
So it was all like this weird, everything was still kind of tied together in shirt tails, but yeah. And it was those 3 dogs for a long time. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I struggled real bad early on. And if I could go back, I'll tell you, one of the dogs, his name was Dale. Because I don't talk about this either. I don't name my dogs dog names usually. They're always people. So
why is that?
I don't know. Just because I don't like dog names. We ended up naming one Twitch, and I'm like, oh man, that just broke the seal. And then the next one was Angus. I'm like, no, I just usually do people names. All of my blue dogs were people names for sure.
Okay.
We had a theme for every litter. You had a way to differentiate which litter was what. But that Dale dog that I had, the only way I could get him from my buddy is he says, you got to promise to name him after my cousin or my uncle. And his uncle's name was Dale. So now we got Dale, right?
That's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. And he was just like this kind of dirt ditter. He was not a real smart dog by any stretch of the word. And he didn't start early. He didn't want to do anything until he was well over a year, like 14 months, probably 15 months.
You were patient.
Very. And stubborn. I mean, honestly, at that point in time, everyone's telling you, dude, you got to get rid of that dog.
Yeah.
And I'm stubborn because I'm going to make it happen and I can figure this out and I'm going to light the world on fire and all the same crap, that we all go through in the beginning. And I was patient enough with him that it finally started clicking. And I will swear to this day, that's probably one of the coldest nosed dogs that I have ever walked behind. He was a freak as far as rigging old tracks or walking old tracks out that you would never catch. Like you could trail that thing for days and never catch it because he couldn't move it fast enough. But when it came down to just grubbing up something to run, he was something else.
It's one of those days when there was nothing.
Yeah, when there was nothing else to run. I mean, you were always finding something. I just wasn't wise enough back then to realize, you idiot, you're never going to catch it. You're just going to boohoo around all night. But at the time, that's what kept me going, man. It was fun, driving around the woods all night and almost getting fired from your job for showing up with dogs in the box and 10 minutes before open.
Was that when you were at Toyota?
Yeah, that was when I was working for Toyota.
That's funny.
I'm surprised they put up with me that long, to be real honest.
How long did you work there?
I was there probably 8 years.
Okay.
Again, the time thing, it gets a little hazy. It's been a while. Yeah. But yeah, I was there for quite a while. It was about 9 years.
Okay.
And then had my injury, and I was on to something that wasn't going to kill my back, hopefully.
Yep. It led you to where you're at now, though. So
it did, man. Yeah, that was honestly, that was a huge jump for my wife and I, because we took my workman's comp settlement and invested it in Plumtree.
Yeah.
And that's how we got the business started. And it was kind of an all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, save a little bit just for right now, but we're not at a point where we can ease into this anymore. We got to either invest in it and make it grow, or just call it quits. So we gambled, and I'm going to say it paid off. I'm sitting here, you know, so it worked out in the long run really well.
I have to say, that was probably one of my favorite podcasts you and Buddy did, was the
saga,
which is and actually the funny thing is I'm the one that kept pestering you for it.
Yeah, you were.
Well, because you kept dropping hints about it. You're like, oh, this is what back in the Plumtree days, and when we were fighting, and it was like, well, just tell the whole story.
Yeah, no kidding.
Get it over with. Because Buddy'd be like, oh, that's a podcast in itself, and it's like, okay, well then get it over with. Let's hear it.
Yeah, that was a good one. If anyone wants to go back and listen, I don't remember the episode number, but
it was early.
It was an early one. It was pretty fun though. Because it's funny, because we were both, I mean, obviously doing our own thing, and we were sending shots, but you didn't know what was going on in the other person's head. Like, you could speculate. So it's like, now that we've worked together, I've been here, over, it's 5.5 years now, almost. It's like, once you get to know each other and you spend that much time around each other, now it's really funny to look back on it. At the moment, it might not have been funny, but now it sure is.
Yep.
But yeah, that was how it all kind of started, with the blue ticks and the business and the local dogs. And there was a lot going on all at once. And trying to become a houndsman and build a business revolving around houndsmen was probably like the biggest detriment.
Yeah.
That was rough, because it put a lot of pressure on in some wrong places. And it made me, I feel like, really miss out on a lot of stuff along the way, or not appreciate it the way I did, or I would now, at least.
So when you were started and you were going to California to bear hunt, how far was that from you?
Well, we're like 63 miles, I think, over the border. And then it wasn't much past that. You were probably an hour and a half drive.
Okay. That's not too bad then.
By the time you got to camp and everything, it was longer than that, because it was mountain roads and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
It was manageable enough. Most of us would leave Friday night after work and drive down and get set up at camp and, have dinner, and then get up and hunt Saturday, Sunday, and head home Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And be home for work.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure how far that was. I mean, you've talked about it a lot, but I wasn't sure. That was like I said, a 2-hour drive or a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Not at all. I'd say, there's places even closer if you wanted to, now that I know kind of the country. But that was just like kind of the historical bear camp. That's where everybody went for a lot of years.
How many years did you bear hunt?
Oh, man, there was...
And I'm asking you all these time questions.
I know, man. And it's so long ago now. I mean, there was at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was probably 6 to 10 campers between the two camps at any given time. Different crowds coming down and going.
Yeah.
There were guys in the same bear camp that I never met. And we went down there, like, I think 3 years total, and we had never met them.
Jeez.
Their trailer was at camp, but we wouldn't cross paths ever. Like, they'd come in after we'd leave and whatnot. But yeah, there was always a lot of people down there for sure.
Now, you said you bear hunted for 3 years then?
Yeah, I didn't have dogs for the first.
Okay.
And then I was just down there for 2 up until 2012 when they outlawed it again.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was rough. Especially when you start making some dogs. I mean, mine weren't dogs. That last season, they were starting to finally do something. But you put all this effort in, And then you just can't do it anymore. Like swipe of a pen, you're done. What are you going to do with your weekends now?
Mm-hmm. No, I talked to a guy from California, and he said when they did that, he got out of dogs completely because he said the local sheriff or game warden or somebody, I forget exactly who it was, basically knew who he was and was gunning for him and said, if I see your dogs chasing a bear, they will be shot. And he's like, I know if he shoots my dogs, I'm not going to take it well, and I'm probably going to do something that will get me in a lot of trouble and I will regret later. So he's it's better for me just to get rid of all my dogs.
There's a lot of them that did that. Really. I mean, it's a sad deal, but there were a lot of people that got out of it. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, and then they took the cats away down there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got a bunch of fox, and you can still run deer down there too. It's pretty limited, but
really,
you can run deer down in California. I think it's limited. Don't quote me on it, but I think it's one deer per tag, or sorry, one dog per tag.
Okay.
So it's pretty limited, but there's a lot of coon hunting and stuff that goes on down there too, and fox. And
most of the people that I've heard that continued kind of shifted into fox because it was the closest thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is. I mean, as far as listening to it, you're hard pressed to find anything else that sounds like a bear race. You know, a fox, when it's a good one, it's loud and it's fast. And I mean, it kind of, it makes it more interesting to me than sitting around listening to a dog cold trail all night.
Yeah.
There's a time that's great. Like when you've been looking for a track for 2 days and can't find one. Yeah. A cold trail sounds pretty good, but you know, a jumped hot running race is pretty hard to beat.
Mm-hmm. So when you made that shift, I know you had blue ticks at that point. So how long did you continue to have blue ticks?
I had blue ticks for a while after. It was hard because they were kind of in that transition time. Like I was doing something and I was hunting with some people. And at that time it was great. But then I felt this shift, you know, like I wanted to do something different. I wanted to try some different things. Mm-hmm. And it's a rough step and it's a delicate step to make, which I probably could have handled a little better, but it's like you've got a group of guys that have really helped you out, but then you're wanting to kind of shift away, and you don't want people to feel like the investment wasn't appreciated. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just, I was really wanting to shift over and try something different. And, you know, luckily I've got a really good hunting partner that helped me out a ton with kind of shifting dogs over and thinking about things different. And I mean, without that, I would have probably never made the shift.
Okay.
But it's, it was a weird time. Mm-hmm. It really was weird because it's like, I just got to kind of find my own thing. Like I'm wanting to try something different. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong. I just want to try something different. And, you know, looking back now, I'm glad I did it because I could always go back. I would love to go back to running bears. If it ever opened again, man, we'd have bear dogs tomorrow.
Yeah.
But for now, it's like the way that I hunt with the kids and having to just hunt at night. It's the only thing that made sense.
Yeah.
Going out and running on a Saturday. Yeah, it's fun, but it doesn't get anything done around the home. Yep. You know, it doesn't get anything checked off the project list or go to a karate lesson. You're stuck out chasing dogs. So it definitely, it was hard, but it was worth the shift, I think, at that point in my life to go over to run environments. And it's been a ton of fun. I wouldn't trade it now for anything. Mm-hmm. I'd just run bear dogs too if I could.
Now, how many blue ticks did you have when you made that shift?
Man, I was down to hunting probably 4.
Okay.
I would say 4 pretty safely because Henry was always there. I ran him up until he was just not in a position where he could keep hunting. Mm-hmm. And his son, Ralph. And then Paisley was Henry's sister and Ralph's aunt. And then It must have been that D dog. It was a dog that I bought from Robbie and Lisa Brooks and shipped in.
Okay.
And she came in right at the tail end of that. But really, I hunted most of those on Fox still.
Okay.
I mean, I ran Fox with the Blue Dogs in the beginning anyway. Mm-hmm. It was just a while before I really shifted the style of dog.
Yeah.
So we were still hunting the same game, but it was definitely a whole different game until we shifted gears and changed dogs around a little bit.
And then you switched to, I would say, what most people in the Pacific Northwest, at least from an outsider's perspective, what most people in the Pacific Northwest run, which is some sort of running dog, tree dog cross.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I had to wait for a time to make a shift because I had so many dogs that were a very specific track style. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, well, you can't bring in one dog that runs a totally different style.
Yep.
Or you got dogs barking behind, or you got total train wrecks all the time. So I had hit a point where I had lost 2 older dogs and I had just decided to retire Henry because he's getting old. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I didn't want to see him go out any other way. He just hung out here and was a little farm dog, and all my kids kind of grew up with him as their first hound.
Yeah.
But after that, I was able to shift, and I ended up getting 2 young females. And then I ended up getting another one that was an older, like Finnish dog.
Okay.
That just kind of helped him out. But those 2, Rose and Fancy, were my first real introduction into like the Pacific Northwest varmint dog stuff, foxhound stuff. And I got them. They were about 10 months old. I think 10 months or a year a piece when I ended up getting them.
Okay.
So I didn't have to deal with the puppies. So I don't know what it was like raising them as pups, but when I got them, it was nice because they were already introduced to the woods. I mean, they were I'd say well started from the guys I got them from anyway. And then it was just went to hunting, and it was like something I had never seen before. Mm-hmm. It's just a totally different track style, and it was pretty cool to watch and kind of got me hooked. I would love to go back and run like this style of dog on bears because I never got to really do that.
Okay.
All of it was pretty much, I wouldn't even call them my dogs. They weren't bear dogs. We had just started, but the dogs that I was hunting around, there were some real bear dogs in there.
Now, the dogs you were hunting with, were they mostly tree dogs, or were they?
It's so hard because the backgrounds on them, I mean, guys try to keep them straight the best that they can. Mm-hmm. But then there's always some puppies that you never know exactly which one they came from or.
Gotcha.
But a lot of it was, I wish I could track it back farther, but it was a dog that was related to like some Hickory Nut Harry stuff. I went back to Findlay River Chief.
Okay.
And it was crossed on that blue dog. Her name was Lucy, and she belonged to a really good buddy of mine at the time. And she produced that Dale dog that I had. And I mean, I think there were 3 litters off of her that produced some really nice dogs as far as gaminess and wanting to go. And then there was another dog. I want to say he was all walker, but I'm probably wrong. I would not quote me on this either, but I want to say he was mainly walker dog. And that thing, Luke, was just a freak. I mean, that dog, I watched him 16 hours on a bear. He was the last one on it from beginning to end. I mean, it was, to me, that was like a real aha moment. Like, that's what people are talking about.
Yeah.
That dog that just sticks it out. And it had flat whooped every other dog off of it or outran them, one of the two. And 16 hours later, here he still is. That was, and there were a lot of good dogs that came off of him too that are still kicking around.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the guys you ran with kind of ran grade dogs then?
Yeah, it was mainly grade dogs. I don't know. Like, there was the occasional papered blue dog, and I think one of them had a papered plot at one point.
Okay.
But it was all just, bear dogs. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter what color it was. As long as it wasn't blue, in most cases, it didn't matter what color it was. They all like their walker dogs and plots. And
So you were the one that really kind of broke the mold when you started getting papered blue dogs then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was definitely not a thing around there.
Okay. See,
They had better dogs than me too, though, so maybe they were on to something.
Like you said, you didn't have long enough to make bear dogs.
No, I wish I could, man. I wish I could go back because they were some really nice dogs. And I know the lines have produced some really nice bear dogs in other states.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it goes, man.
Unfortunately.
It's too hard to travel anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Like those guys had some real dogs, and they were honest about them too. I mean, if there was issues, it was a group of guys that, I don't know, everybody kind of held each other I don't want to say accountable. That's not even the right word. Like, they would lean on me a little and be like, "Hey, you should really think about moving on. Like, this dog's not going to make it."
Yeah.
And then there were others that wouldn't say a word, but you knew, and it's like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle this pressure, but this is different because they had just, I mean, you think about it. I was starting with dogs that I didn't know. Now they had came from some bear dog lines, like the blue tick side, it had produced some really, really nice bear dogs out of that. And even when crossed onto these grade dogs, it was just, I ended up with that strain of blue ticks that was feeding anything else that really had a blue dog in it around our group, was all related in some way. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of, I don't know, they all fell in, and I don't even know how to say it, but being the registered guy, it was a lot of flack. I'll tell you that.
I'm sure.
I mean, it was never ending. We'll put it that way.
Especially if your dogs aren't quite up to par. It's, those papers are, how many bear are they catching you? I'm sure.
Right. Exactly. Them fancy dogs, fancy. Because we were showing them too. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I was new in it, and I was going to do everything. And I was going to like go out and catch a pile of game, and we were going to show them. And we did, but it was like, at what cost? The ego.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It was stupid young hunter stuff at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And now I wish I would have been paying more attention and taking advantage of the time with those guys that are.
Well, at the time you didn't realize it was going to end.
No.
So
no, you didn't.
It's hard to, to appreciate what you have until you don't have it anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
And like you said, being young, everyone's young and dumb.
Right.
At some point.
Yeah, there's a definite difference between, like, I don't know, you say the dogs, they flip a switch, right? Mm-hmm. When they turn it on, it's like, oh yeah, they're on now. It's like as a houndsman too, I feel like you fight, and you get to this point, and then everything kind of just clicks over. And it's like, oh man, this is nice. Yeah. This is way nicer than beating our head against a wall every trip.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Now, what's your pack look like now? You said you've kind of shifted to these Pacific Northwest varmint dogs, which, from my understanding, like I said, is running some sort of running dog, tree dog cross. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so right now I've got 3, well, I'll say 2 older dogs. They're like 4 years old.
Okay.
And then I've got one that's coming to that's pretty well going. I mean, like, she's doing a good job. She's not finished out. And then there's a puppy that's he probably just turned a year.
Okay.
So it'll be his first season in the woods this year. Mm-hmm. But that's it right now. We lost a lot of the old dogs in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. They all hit that 12, 13-year-old mark. And
yeah,
a couple had cancer, and God only knows on the other ones. One had Lyme's disease. So it was rough. I mean, we had to rebuild with a bunch of young dogs. And luckily my hunting buddy, Brandon, I hunt with him a lot. So it's like, I can just jump in and throw them in, and they pick up the program pretty quick.
Nice.
And then you just got to separate them out and make sure they can still figure it out on their own too. Mm-hmm. But it made it easier to switch and start running the varmints. And then when we lost the old dogs in the stay power, like to just keep them going through that age, because they were, I'd say that first season I had them, so up to about 1.5 years old. I mean, like, they were cranking. and you just hit that point where it's like you can't back off now. Mm-hmm. And then I lost almost every finished good dog I had. So it's like, crap, what are we going to do now?
Yep.
And luckily we were just able to put them on enough game to pull them through it. And they started going, and it's like, cool.
That's awesome.
We can work through this.
Yeah, it kind of happened to me a couple of years ago. I had a broke finished coon dog. I don't know, he was probably a 2.5-year-old male that I wasn't feeling. I didn't think he was going to make the cut for me. He ended up not. And I had a 6-month-old puppy. So when she died, she ended up getting cancer. I had to put her down like a week after coon season came in. I kind of finished out that season messing around with that 2.5-year-old, kind of giving him that last little bit of a chance.
Right.
Hunting him with some buddies and stuff and trying to put him on some game, but put him on coon. And then I picked up an old dog that was supposed to be broke coon dog. Yeah. I don't know. He wasn't.
So says the ad.
Yep. Which the guy was getting rid of him because some family problems, and he was free. So it's not like I had a couple hours to go get him, but it's not like I spent money on him. So I didn't feel too bad when the dog really didn't turn out. And it may be when he was younger he did. He'd been in the pen for a couple years.
Yeah. So. That's hard on him. Mm-hmm. Pen stale is a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I've really struggled recently. It's like I do not hunt enough right now to maintain the style of dogs I'm hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, by any stretch of the word, like they should be out there 3, 4, 5 nights a week, easy. And it's like, man, you're just scraping together to fill up the gas tank now, it seems like.
Yeah, not good. What's your gas out there?
Oh, it was up to like 5. I want to say like 570, but it's came down a bit. It's in the low 5s now, I think.
I got gas for $4.19 yesterday.
Yeah, you want to send some out here?
And I just got told by a guy in Virginia that they're under $4 where he's at.
Oh, dang. So. Yeah, we'd kill for that up here. We're like exercising dogs out of my little Chevy Tracker right now because it gets decent mileage.
Yep. No, I understand that. So, back to your current pack. What's your puppy out of? Like, where'd he come from?
He's out of California.
Okay.
From buddy I got down there, Clint LaRue. So he's a bunch, again, just varmint dog stuff that's been crossed up. It goes back to, well, I'm trying to think. I want to say it's related to a bunch of that stuff we talked about in our podcast with Eddie Patterson and Alvy. I don't know, to be honest. I just know he came from good stock because I know the guys that were involved in it. Gotcha. But it's really hard for me because I deal with dogs so much and I hear so many stories every day. Mm-hmm. I kind of wait until I know they're going to really make it. And then I remember what they're on. It sounds horrible, Clint. I'm going to have to get with you, bud. I need a refresher because I know the dogs' names. But again, I get weird talking about other dogs because it's hard. Like, people take their dogs really personal too.
Oh, yeah.
And the bloodlines are so tight out here and guys are working so hard to make a real dog. I mean, like a multi-purpose. The Northwest is kind of a crazy spot to make dogs. There's a lot going on.
Why do you say that?
Just because there's so many different types of hunting. I think in the Northwest between Oregon, Washington, Idaho, California. I mean, I'll even include all of California because there's a lot of varmint hunters down south. It's like everybody's looking for this magic combo, right? Like dogs that'll go and push a fox, but they'll still cold trail a cat.
Okay.
Or they're going to go bay a mean bear and then switch over to bobcat and do awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because like each different region has different needs.
Yeah.
So there's guys breeding so many different directions, but yet they all kind of seem to end up going back to like a lot of the stuff. Heck, the Turners brought in Sonny and Jesse and, Mike Kemp breeds dogs out here that are killer. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys on the West Coast that are breeding some really nice dogs that it's just tight. Mm-hmm. and some of it you can get into and some of it you can't. And it's just kind of one of those things where you got to hunt a dog and figure out what you really like and see what works for you, because everybody's dogs are a little bit different. It seems like.
Oh yeah.
Like this pup I got right now, he's way different than anything I've ever dealt with.
Okay.
He's a little bit he's not timid, but he can duck pretty quick. We'll put it that way. Like he can bob and weave, and he likes to play the game of running in and getting out, kind of messing with you. He's all puppy, but it's like a different mentality. Going from blue dogs to the running dogs, I've never had to train a pup through any of this.
Okay.
They were even 10 months old. Yes, that's a puppy, but when they get turned loose and they make a tree, I mean, there's not a whole lot of training going on there.
Yeah.
Where, this guy, it's like, yeah, this is kind of fun working on a puppy again. And I told my wife, I said, he's either going to be not what I'm looking for, or he's going to be the best dog I own, probably. I like him. He reminds me of that Dale dog that I told you about earlier. So now I'm like, okay, I can't let the sentimental side overpower the logistical side. Like this dog I got to be honest about him. But man, like what I've seen from him in the last couple of months and just his attitude and working with him and walking him and just working him in the woods at night and letting him explore and kind of see what it's all about. I got pretty high hopes for him.
Awesome.
We'll see. And that's it, man. It really, it's bare bones skeleton crew around here right now.
Well, you're pretty much in the same position I am with young kids, so I completely understand.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because you want to drag home a bunch of them, but I can't do them justice, and I don't want my kids getting super attached either. That's always the hard part, bringing a puppy home.
I'm right there.
But you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to add a bunch right now. That's for sure. And it's like, but you don't want to get out either. Like that's not an option. Oh, I'm not going to quit running them. So I just kind of decided, look, I'm going to run these dogs that I've got. I like them. I might not be doing them full justice like some other guys could, but at some point my enjoyment is going to play a factor in this hunting thing.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoy hunting them. So instead of switching and getting, maybe a style of dog that you only have to hunt once a week and it stays tuned in and it does a decent job.
Yeah.
I can't do it because I like these dogs. So it's like, we just kind of do our part when we can. And season's coming up as soon as the rain starts falling and we start being able to really hunt, man. I'm hoping to hit it hard.
Definitely. Now I got told when I had my first son. My wife had my first son.
You didn't have anything.
Yeah. An old coon hunter's like, just get rid of your dogs now. I said, why? He goes, because you'll get rid of them in a couple years. I was like, nah, I'm too stubborn for that.
Yeah. I heard that too. Not from my hunting buddies, but everybody else. It's like, oh yeah, you just get rid of them.
Yeah.
It shifted. I mean, this. We've talked about this 100 times, probably.
Yeah. We
should have just recorded all of our phone conversations.
I know.
But it's
shoot. If you recorded your day to day, you could probably come up with a lot of podcast content right there.
Oh man. Yeah, 5 to 6 hours a day on the phone, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some good Whopper stories.
I'm sure.
Some of them aren't podcast worthy.
Well, let's hear a good story about your dogs now.
Oh man.
You were telling me one before we started this. Come on.
Oh, the possum. That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a possum. The puppy did find a possum the other night, which is honestly right now it's fine with me. It's legal in Oregon. I'm like, cool, whatever. But yeah, I just rode him and he ended up kind of boo-hooing around and waited for it. And, like I said, he's a very standoffish dog. He doesn't like to be handled more than he has to be. And he's kind of bob and weave and ducky. And that's what I've really been working with him on. But when I take him to the woods, it's like a light switch. He's a totally different dog. And he actually started going off. I mean, Heck, he hit the side of the road. There was a little ditch bank there, right? And it's all filled with busted off sticks, like slash basically. And he hits it about 100 miles an hour and just jumps like 8 feet in the air. It looked like it was probably more like 3, but I mean, he just comes like Supermaning up over this thing. It's like, dude, what is up with you? That's not your mentality. You're being crazy. And, but you start seeing that shift in him. And it's like, you could tell he was really trying. And there were some other dogs there. And he goes down in there and I just hear him sounded like he was wooling it, and I get to where we can see and it's like, oh yeah, you got a possum. And possums are like my kryptonite, man. Like I hardly ever see them, but when I do, it's usually a screwed up situation. Like the first one went, I don't know, 1,000 yards up the mountain and my dogs would not take care of it. They just bathed the thing and ran circles around it all the way up the mountain.
That's funny.
It was a great idea when I turned them loose, but as soon as they started getting on it and moving, like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. So I am probably going to kick myself for being okay with this right now. But that's that hard part. Like, what do? You're not going to shock your pup's first experience with a piece of game. No matter how much you don't like it, at least it wasn't a skunk.
Yep.
I mean, really, like it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And you don't want to really encourage it necessarily, but I've learned my lesson. Those early dogs got screwed up because I was way too heavy with a shock collar.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to watch a dog. I didn't know what a dog needed. Mm-hmm. Where him, I'm like, man, I know I cannot do more than tone or vibrate or like a number 2 nick, something really light. So luckily the training and calling him off, I was able to call him off of the game and get him to come back. But he was in a messed up spot. I did not want to go to him. I will tell you that. I was super proud of that dog for being able to cross the logs and the boulders. And it was like a big, I don't know, watching your kid do something. And it's like, oh yeah, you're growing up. And that's kind of how I felt with him that night. It's like, oh, maybe he is going to do something. Yep. Let's just get you in shape. Mm-hmm. That way, when season opens, we'll be ready to rock and roll.
There you go.
But yeah, it's been kind of fun doing a puppy again.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. What's your youngest dog now?
He just turned 3.
Oh, so you're due. You need another one.
I know.
Every 2 years, right? Isn't that what we're all supposed to be doing? That's the lie I keep hearing.
Won't hold you up too much tonight. I appreciate you sitting down with me.
Oh yeah, man. It was nice. We don't get to talk all that often. We're both busy.
Definitely. I bug you at work a little bit.
That's all right. You can call anytime, man. You know that. No, I love what you're doing with the podcast. It's cool to see it going. I've been watching the reviews and stuff you've been getting too.
I appreciate it.
It's cool. Like the little podcast community actually is pretty tight. I think it's funny because a lot of people don't realize how tight it really is. Like we all do talk in the off hours and BS.
And I've been trying to get a hold of Bear actually for the last couple weeks, and he's been slammed.
Yeah, he's been a busy guy.
He's like,
I know I'm supposed to do one with him too here coming up because we try to do one every so often, just catch up, but.
Yeah, no, this isn't a podcast. We're not trying to do a podcast or anything. Just trying to catch up and shoot the breeze and talk a little bit, other than messaging.
Well, what is it? The 9-hour time difference? I don't even know what it is. Something in there, like international dateline kind of screws things up.
I can keep track of the United States, but him, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, I just know when I should try to get a hold of him between this time and this time. I don't know what that correlates to him over there, but I know when he stops messaging and when he starts messaging. So I assume
there you go.
But it's okay to be in that safe zone. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, keep it up. I've been enjoying them.
I appreciate it.
I don't get to listen to a ton anymore. Just shoot, I listen to 3 a week.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I've enjoyed them so far, man. I'm glad you're doing well.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.